There's a corner of my yard that does nothing. No mowing, no watering, no fertilizer, no maintenance of any kind. And every single year it produces hundreds of pounds of food. I planted 5 trees there 12 years ago. Most of them cost less than $15 at a local nursery. Today, those trees produce more food per square foot than any vegetable garden I've ever grown. And they'll keep doing it long after I'm gone. Most people spend their entire lives planting annual crops. You plant in spring, harvest in fall, and start over. Every single year. It's farming on a treadmill. Trees are different. You plant once, you wait, and then they produce, not for one season, not for 10 years, but for generations. These are the 5 trees I would plant first if I was starting from scratch today. Number 4 almost disappeared from history entirely, and the people who still grow it quietly consider it the most valuable tree on their property. Number 1 can produce enough calories from a single tree to feed a family of 4 every year for 300 years. Let's start. Number 5, mulberry. The tree that grocery stores will never sell. Walk into any supermarket and try to find a fresh mulberry. You won't, because mulberries bruise if you look at them wrong. They have a shelf life of about 24 hours after picking. The commercial food system can't handle them, which means the only way to eat them is to grow them yourself. And that is exactly the opportunity. A mature mulberry tree produces 50 to 80 pounds of fruit per year. Sweet, nutritious, no processing required. You pick them and eat them. Here's what makes the mulberry the perfect starter tree. It produces fruit in year 2 or 3 after planting, faster than almost any other fruit tree on this list. In Afghanistan and Pakistan, dried mulberries are still stored through winter as a primary food source. The dried fruit is approximately 10% protein, exceptional for a fruit. Plant it, water it for the first year, then ignore it, and collect fruit every summer for the next 50 years. Number 4, fig, the tree that kept cities alive. Figs show up repeatedly in ancient texts as symbols of prosperity and food security. There's a reason. A mature fig tree produces 100 to 200 pounds of fruit per year. Fresh figs are delicious, but the real survival value is in the dried fruit. Dried figs store for over a year and pack approximately 1,200 calories per pound. During sieges and famines throughout Mediterranean history, fig trees meant the difference between survival and starvation. When grain stores ran out and trade routes were cut off, the people with fig trees kept eating. Figs also propagate easily from cuttings. One tree becomes many trees. That's how communities expanded their food supply without spending a single coin. Plant a fig in full sun with decent drainage. In colder climates, choose cold, hardy varieties or mulch heavily around the base in winter. Harvest when the fruit is soft and fully colored. Dry them in the sun. You've just planted a tree that produces hundreds of pounds of storable food per year for the next 50 to 100 years. Number 3, walnut. The tree that pays you twice. A mature walnut yields 50 to 80 pounds of nuts per year. High in omega-3 fatty acids, protein, and calories. Shelf-stable for over a year in the shell. During the Great Depression, families with walnut trees had food to eat and surplus to sell when their neighbors had nothing. During World War II, walnut trees provided critical fats when meat and butter were rationed across the country. The trees required no care. They just produced. But here's the second payoff most people miss. Walnut timber is one of the most valuable woods on earth. A mature black walnut tree can be worth thousands of dollars for the timber alone. You're not just planting food. You're planting a financial asset that compounds for 150 years. One important note. Walnuts produce a chemical called juglone that inhibits the growth of some nearby plants. Plan carefully where you put them. But once established, they live for 150 to 200 years. Your grandchildren will still be harvesting from a tree you plant this weekend. Number 2, chestnut. The tree that fed Europe through its darkest winters. Before the chestnut blight of the early 1900s devastate American chestnut populations, chestnuts were one of the most important food trees in the temperate world. In parts of Italy and France, they still are. A mature chestnut produces 200 to 400 pounds of nuts per year. Large, starchy, filling. Approximately 200 calories per 100 grams, more calorically dense than potatoes by weight. What makes chestnuts unique among all nut trees is that they behave more like a grain than a nut. Low in fat, high in carbohydrates. You can roast them, boil them, grind them into flour for baking, or dry them for long-term storage. In mountainous regions of Europe, entire communities survived on chestnut flour for generations. When lowland grain crops failed, the chestnut forests on the hillsides kept people alive. The trees required no maintenance, no fertilizer, no irrigation, no replanting. They just produced, year after year, for centuries. American chestnuts were nearly wiped out by blight, but blight-resistant varieties exist today. Plant them in well-drained soil. Protect from deer during establishment. In 10 years, modest production. In 30 years, hundreds of pounds annually. In 100 years, your family is still eating from it. Number 1. Oak. The tree that built civilizations. A mature oak tree produces 500 to 1,000 pounds of acorns per year. Read that again. 500 to 1,000 pounds. From one tree. Every single year. For 300 years. Acorns are approximately 2,000 calories per pound. High in healthy fats, complex carbohydrates, and protein. Indigenous peoples across North America, Europe, and Asia didn't just eat acorns occasionally. They built entire civilizations on them. The Miwok and Pomo tribes of California managed oak groves the way modern farmers manage wheat fields. Acorn flour was their wheat. Acorn mush was their bread. It wasn't survival food. It was the foundation of their diet for thousands of years. During the Korean War, acorns were a significant food source when other supplies were unavailable. 3 continents, thousands of years apart, all arriving at the same conclusion independently. The oak tree is not a shade tree. It's a food system. The catch is processing. Most acorns contain tannins that make them bitter, but tannins are water-soluble. You remove them by soaking the ground acorns in cold water, changing the water every 8 to 12 hours for 2 to 4 days. That's it. What you get at the end is a flour that's naturally gluten-free, rich in healthy fats, and shelf-stable for 2 years. White oak varieties, Quercus alba, bur oak, Oregon white oak, have naturally lower tannins and sometimes need almost no processing at all. Plant in full sun. Protect from deer during establishment. Step back and wait. In 20 years, it starts producing seriously. In 50 years, hundreds of pounds per year. In 200 years, your great-grandchildren are still collecting food from a tree you planted. 5 trees. That's it. You plant them once and they feed your family for generations. No annual replanting, no seed dependency, no fertilizer supply chains. Just permanent food infrastructure that keeps producing even when everything else fails. The best time to plant these trees was 20 years ago. The second best time is today, while nurseries still have stock, while saplings are still affordable. Because in 10 years, when food prices keep climbing and everyone else finally starts paying attention, you'll already be harvesting. Think about this. If your grandparents had planted an oak tree when they were young, you could be harvesting hundreds of pounds of food from it right now. You can be that person for your grandchildren. Plant the trees. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.